You're watching VinylicPumaGaming. What's up, guys? So, I've been making a lot of top 10, top 9, top 7, top 5 countdown videos lately, and I figured I'd do something different and make a commentary video for you guys. As you probably guessed from the title, I want to discuss and compare Fallout 4 and Skyrim. Also, as you may have guessed from the title, I want to discuss why after replaying Skyrim Special Edition, or just replaying Skyrim again, why I think Skyrim is a better game than Fallout 4. But before that, I might as well issue my trigger warning for this video, so here it goes. I am going to really criticize Fallout 4 here, so if you're a fan of the game like I am, please understand that I actually like Fallout 4 more than Skyrim in some ways, particularly when it comes to the shooting mechanics and graphical presentation of the game. It's much more fun to use a gun in Fallout than it is to use a bow and arrow or even a crossbow in Skyrim. I also think that while certain things weren't as well implemented in Fallout 4, the settlement system and the modular weapon system were actually pretty good ideas. It's just they needed to be developed more, and I think if they were, I think we would have had an amazing game on our hands. I guess what I'm trying to say is that while Fallout 4 isn't the best game ever made, it's still a really good game in my opinion. Alright guys, with our trigger warnings out of the way, let's discuss why Skyrim has more variety than Fallout 4. While I get into things like playstyles, builds, and weapons later on in the video, I want to talk about world design first. I think we can all agree that Skyrim's world design is completely superior to Fallout 4's, and this becomes immediately apparent as you travel through the various areas in Skyrim. So, for example, you've got the golden grass fields of Whiterun, and those are so much different from the wooded forests that you see in Falkreath. There's also a lot of contrast between the mountainous areas near Markarth, the swamps near Morthal, and even the winter-covered areas near both Winterhold and Windhelm. You've even got areas that I suppose, well, I guess it's a part of the Windhelm Hold, but I mean there's that hot spring area that's just south of Windhelm, and that is a great example of a totally different environment from the rest of the game. Think about the variety in the various locations that I just discussed for a second. Skyrim has swamps, wooded forests, mountainous terrains, huge open grasslands, winter areas, areas with a lot of hot springs, fall-inspired areas like Riften, and to top it all off, we have the Throat of the World mountain where Paarthurnax lives. The Throat of the World is particularly important because it just has a certain epicness to it. The minute you first see it, you're probably thinking, hey, I want to climb that huge-ass mountain. And the key is that they actually let you climb that huge-ass mountain. Even the Dawnguard DLC areas looked and felt different from the rest of the game. And one of my favorite areas from Dawnguard is when you enter the Forgotten Vale. The frozen waterfalls look different from many of the other areas in the vanilla game, and yeah, I guess it's like a winter-inspired area, but for whatever reason, it was a very memorable area to me, and it sticks out in my mind. Contrast this with Fallout 4 for a moment. You notice how Fallout 4 mostly looks all the same? The most variety that I can think of Fallout 4 has is they've got swamp areas, the downtown Boston area, the glowing sea, and maybe then you've got like some beaches and places like Libertalia where it's like a raider settlement on the water. Otherwise, Fallout 4 really feels like this massive sea of dead trees and dead or dying grass. And while you could argue it's supposed to look this way, think back to Fallout 3 and New Vegas for a moment. While New Vegas was mostly an orange desert, there were areas of major contrast. Think about areas like Jacobstown compared to the city of New Vegas. Even though I'm not much of a fan of New Vegas' DLC, Big Mountain from the Old World Blues DLC and Zion National Park from the Honest Hearts DLC look and feel much different from the vanilla game. Even Fallout 3 with its Sea of Grey has its moments. Oasis is so radically different from the rest of the game that it has burned an impression of itself into my brain ever since my first visit. And while Nuka World from Fallout 4 is definitely more varied than Far Harbor, you'll notice that as you travel from park to park, that you have to look at that same landscape of dead trees and dead or dying grass. Why couldn't the areas look drastically different like they do in Skyrim? Furthermore, both for Fallout 4 Vanilla Game and its DLC, is there any one significant landmark like the Throat of the World from Skyrim? While we're still on the subject of variety and depth, think about Skyrim's questlines for a moment. There's the main quest line, which is not very complicated, but it's cool. But then you've also got the College of Winterhold questline, the Dark Brotherhood questline, the Thieves Guild questline, and even the Companions questline. And that's not all. You've also got the Civil War questline and numerous amounts of side quests that you can do in the game. Fallout 4, on the other hand, really just has the main quest, along with a number of side quests. And I will admit that the difference is that the main quest from Fallout 4 does have different branching paths, while Skyrim's main quest is fairly straightforward. The thing is, while you can do quests for major factions in Fallout 4, you get to a point where you can't continue a quest line unless you complete portions of the main quest and side with that particular faction. Even then, 3 of the 4 factions yield a very similar ending. Only if you side with the Institute do you get an entirely different ending from what you would have gotten. Ultimately, I think this is unfortunate, and while I can't say for sure exactly what I would have wanted, I think that I would have preferred having a clear good and evil ending as opposed to multiple different endings. That way, I could have had more specific faction quest lines in addition to the main quest, and that would have been really cool. My guess is that the reason Fallout 4 just has the main quest is because of Fallout 4's settlement system. It's fair to reason that some of the development time that would have gone into designing quests and various other things was ultimately used to design the user interface, mechanics, and other aspects of the settlement system. So if you're wondering why there aren't other quest lines that aren't a part of the main quest, that's probably a reason why, but then again, that is speculation on my part. Not only does Skyrim have more quests than Fallout 4 does, but there are also more ways that you can play through the game. In Skyrim, you could play as a mage, but because there are several different schools of magic, you may find that you want to specialize in the illusion school and have enemies fight each other. Or you could specialize in conjuration by raising the dead and being a necromancer, or you could summon Daedra to fight for you. You could even play the role of a more traditional mage and specialize in destruction and shoot bolts of lightning, shoot fireballs, or hurl ice shards at people. Or maybe you want to play as a melee or ranged character, and if you've learned a sufficient amount of alchemy and poisons, you can craft poisons that can deal additional damage to enemies. It's really cool that you could mix playstyles together, where maybe you could play as a battle mage, and you could use a sword and spells. Maybe you can make a stealth warrior, where you're really good with one-handed, or maybe you dual-wield 2 weapons, but you sneak and perform sneak attacks that way, or maybe you could play like an archer mage character where you have the bound bow and then you summon like Dremora to fight for you. And that was really cool about Skyrim. As for Fallout 4, you're either using guns or melee weapons, and from there, you're either playing a sneak type character, a heavy VATS user, or some combination of the two. While you can achieve some variety by picking different perks that correspond with various different special stats, at the end of the day, you're either killing things with a gun or you're killing things with blunt and sharp objects. And upon reflection, it baffles me that Fallout 4 doesn't allow you to craft a bow, make some poison, dip your arrow in it, and shoot enemies in the face. You could do it in Skyrim, so why can't you do the same thing in Fallout 4? Furthermore, a bow and arrow, or even a crossbow, would have been amazing for stealth characters in Fallout 4. You wouldn't need a silencer at all, and a bow could have made for some interesting kills in VATS. And sure, yeah, you can get a syringer rifle in Fallout 4, but the lack of significant base damage makes it fairly useless. Also, unlike Skyrim, you can't make the poisons themselves stronger. Another thing that I don't understand is why I can craft enchanted weapons in Skyrim while I can't craft legendary weapons in Fallout 4. It would make sense if you needed the Demolition Expert perk to create a weapon with the explosive effect, or maybe you needed the Armorer and Science perks to craft the Almost Unbreakable effect on your power armors. And yes, while you can install mods that allow you to perform these actions, I don't understand why this couldn't have been built into the game's mechanics in the first place. Skyrim has enchantments that you can craft, so again, why can't I craft legendary weapons in Fallout 4? While it's been beaten to death, I do feel it's important to discuss Fallout 4 versus Skyrim's dialogue system. After going back and playing Skyrim Special Edition a little bit, it's clear to me that Skyrim clearly has the better dialogue system between both games. It's essentially the logical evolution of the dialogue system that we saw in Fallout 3, Elder Scrolls Oblivion, and even Fallout New Vegas. Instead of having this massive dialogue box that appears and takes up the lower portion of your screen, you get a miniature dialogue box that appears in Skyrim. From there, you simply scroll up and down to pick the choices that you want. Then the voiced NPCs interact with you based on your choices. And yes, while you don't always get 4 choices like you do in Fallout 4, you can frequently get 5 or more dialogue choices with various NPCs, particularly if there are important NPCs. Something that's also important to mention is that Skyrim's Dragonborn, Oblivion's Hero of Kvatch, I hope I said that right, Fallout New Vegas' Courier, and Fallout 3's Lone Wanderer are completely blank slates. The Dragonborn in particular can be male or female and can be one of 10 different races. There's very little, if any, backstory of who the Dragonborn is, let alone who the Courier or the Lone Wanderer are. Fallout 4, on the other hand, decided to go in an entirely new direction. Instead of featuring the classic Elder Scrolls dialogue system, Bethesda opted to have a dialogue wheel more along the lines of something that you might see from a BioWare title. While I personally like Mass Effect's dialogue system, I don't think it works in a Fallout or Elder Scrolls game for one specific reason. In Mass Effect, regardless of whether you make your character white or black, male or female, or whatever else, you are still Commander Shepard. And this is an important distinction since Commander Shepard is ultimately someone that has significant history within the universe of Mass Effect. In fact, we know in Mass Effect 1 that Commander Shepard used to run with a street gang called the 10th Street Reds. In Fallout 4, regardless of who you decide to name your character or which sex you choose, at the core, you're still either Nate or Nora. While Codsworth may acknowledge you as Sam or Sally, you still have a pre-established backstory within the Fallout universe. Nate was a former soldier, while Nora was a former lawyer before the bombs fell. The idea of your player character having some backstory totally goes against what we've seen in previous games from Bethesda Game Studios. What was special about the original dialogue system was that you weren't just playing some character and story. In Skyrim, you are the Dragonborn, and even in Fallout 3 and New Vegas, you are the Lone Wanderer, or you are the Courier in those games. In Fallout 4, you're Nate if you choose to play as a male, or you're Nora if you choose to play as a female. That character, regardless of whether you rename them, you make them black, Asian, Hispanic, white, or even a man or a woman, it isn't you or who you want them to be. The final thing I want to discuss here is Skyrim's modding community compared to Fallout 4's. Now, the modding community for Skyrim was, and to a certain extent still is, absolutely massive. On NexusMods.com, the original version of Skyrim has 50,107 files with over 1 billion downloads. This is just for the original PC version of the game alone, and while Skyrim Special Edition hasn't been out for a month yet, it currently has about 2,715 files with 16 million downloads on the Nexus. On Bethesda.net, there are currently 3,959 mods for Skyrim Special Edition across all platforms, with no specific metrics on the number of downloads, though I suspect that those are even higher numbers there. Fallout 4, on the other hand, has about 15,507 files with about 133 million downloads on the Nexus, and on Bethesda.net, there are currently 7,666 files across all platforms, with no metrics on the specific numbers of downloads. Now, at first glance, That sounds amazing for Fallout 4, and assuming Fallout 4 maintained that rate over a 5-year period, you would have more mods for Fallout 4 than even the original Skyrim. And while I could be wrong about this in 5 years' time, I don't think this is going to happen for one big reason. And that simply is that the Elder Scrolls games typically seem to have a bigger fan base than the Fallout fan base. And because of that, you're more likely to see more mods for an Elder Scrolls title than a Fallout title. Even after all of these years, Oblivion has about 28,064 mods on the Nexus compared to Fallout New Vegas's 17,547 and Fallout 3's 14,279. That said, New Vegas does have more mod downloads on the Nexus than Oblivion does. There's actually an interesting graph on the Nexus that shows their download statistics for the original Skyrim. You'll notice that since Skyrim's initial launch in 2011, that the number of downloads has been on a continuous uptrend over time. Fallout 4, on the other hand, has been on a steady downtrend since its launch. And while I can't say for certain, I suspect the Fallout 4 modding community won't recover from this month's slump, and any of the modders Fallout 4 had will move to Skyrim Special Edition. If you're curious, I'll leave a link in the description for the download graphs on Oblivion, Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, Skyrim, and Fallout 4. Ultimately, I think these statistics essentially reinforce the idea that the Elder Scrolls games seem to just have a larger fan base, and more importantly, that modding Skyrim is just more popular than modding a Fallout game. While the data isn't complete for Skyrim Special Edition, Nexus Mods is currently counting 16 million downloads, and this already means that it may even eclipse Fallout 4's peak download count on the site. Guys, if it were up to me, I would actually like the Fallout franchise to be more popular than the Elder Scrolls. I wish Fallout 4 would get awesome conversion mods like Skyrim does, where, you've got Sky Oblivion or Skywind, where they basically converted the world from Oblivion into Skyrim's engine, or the world from Morrowind into Skyrim's engine. And those mods are amazing, and it sucks that we haven't gotten anything like that for Fallout 4 yet. Though at the same time, that may not even happen. Alright guys, I think that's going to go ahead and wrap up this commentary. If you like this video, leave a like. I'm thinking about making one where I argue the point that Fallout 4 is better than Skyrim. So if you want to see that, leave a like on this video and I may make that video. But again guys, thank you for watching this video. Take care and I'll see y'all next time.